Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm very excited to talk about Firefight being in Halo Infinite. It's something we've all been waiting for literally since release over 2 years ago now, and that's something I think everybody thought we were going to get on release, and obviously we've had to wait, but it's here now. Let's get into the video. So first off, a high-level summary before you all start ranting about the title of this video. This mode is super fun. It is really good in some regards, and if you just want to have mindless, casual fun shooting AI, then this is the mode for you. However, I'm going to do a slightly deeper dive on that and say that this mode is just not ready, it's not good enough, and we deserve better as a community having to wait this long to get this bare bones mode. Let me explain a little bit further. Just before I start ranting, I'm throwing this in as I was editing the footage because I forgot to mention that this music, especially this intro music, goes hard, and all the new music that they put into this mode is amazing. So first off, again, I love this mode in terms of the concept, and I've had a lot of fun. I played several hours in this game mode. All the footage you're going to be seeing is on heroic mode, and that is kind of where my first problem lies. It's just way too easy, guys. Even if you're playing this randoms, I don't think I've lost a match yet. I've lost one hill, 1 point over one game, over several hours. It's just not good enough in terms of keeping you engaged in difficult firefight. I'll try and sync up some of the footage to what I'm saying here, but I've got hours and hours worth of footage to try and dig through. So there are times where this is King of the Hill, so this is the big thing 343 were pushing for us to be playing, saying that they wanted to put their own spin on firefight and not just be a survival, kill everybody and then try and kill you. But which is fine, it sounds good in principle, and sometimes you do get some crazy fire fights if you're in that middle battle trying to fight for the hill, but you can quite easily pick off most enemies from the outskirts, and in fact if you do stay in the middle you're just gonna end up dying, so it's stupid to do so. It's not a very well balanced mode, and further to that, there have been many times where the AI is just dumb. Halo has always been priding itself, especially in the campaigns, the single player, priding itself on how good it is with AI fighting against you, and with you to some extent, but this is primarily, obviously, I'm talking about being against AI. And they have always, except for a few games, i.e. Halo 4, had the smartest AI of any game out there, especially AAA game. And here in Firefight King of the Hill, they're dumb as hell. They must have a waypoint set on them, and it basically means run directly for the hill, shoot people if you can, if they're in front of you. If they're slightly behind you, actually just leave them and just keep running and get shot in the back and don't turn around and shoot them, because literally several times, or every time I play the game actually, you can be behind enemies and they just ignore you. They're getting plowed in the back of the head with single shot DMR type guns, or pistols, or have a hammer going off behind them, or have, literally you can be shooting them from the back, from distance, from close range, and they will just turn around, ignore you, and just run straight to the hill. Once they then get in the hill, they just stand there. They're bullet sponges, so they do take a lot of damage in the later rounds on heroic, but there's just no smart AI. They're not trying to dodge out the way like they do in campaign. They're not trying to fight around obstacles. They're not trying to, take cover and come out strategically. Then they still try and dodge grenades, which is pretty good, but it's just the bare bones of what you expect Halo AI to be against you. They need to be, there's several times where I've sort of set it up where it could be a really cool firefight, or fight, I should say, around some rocky terrain, and I'm sort of set up there. I've actually taken loads of damage, and I've lost shields, and I'm waiting for them to run round, and I'm waiting to counter. And what has actually happened is that my shields just come back up, I come around the corner, and they've all just ran off to the hill, and I pick them off from behind. It's so dumb, but if you're into that, then that's cool. But we want a bit of a challenge here from the wider community. So that is my first big issue with this. The AI just isn't good enough, and I don't think putting it on legendary or mythic and having the difficulty much higher is going to actually solve that, because if the waypoint says go to the hill, stay in the hill, you're not going to have smart AI that turn around and shoot you when they're getting shot in the back based on that. Then they need to do scripting a lot better for this mode moving forward. Secondly, I think when we do, and I'm assuming we are getting Legendary and Mythic playlists in the future, when they do push these ones out, we have to get rid of the unlimited power-ups. To have unlimited grapple shot or dashing or whatever, it just, again, makes it way too easy, and it's actually negative in terms of then when you go and play a proper match, PvP, you're pushing the button because you get used to just having that ability on you. It's a bit like when you play campaign and then you go and play PvP, you forget, actually, I don't have this cool ability. So they need to remove that in the higher difficulties and just have it limited like it is in normal multiplayer. So another point that I don't necessarily like is the maps. Almost all the maps are old, and the ones that are new or been highly advertised, House of Reckoning, for example, is just not that fun for some reason. I love playing the mission in campaign, and I played it a few times now because it is pretty awesome, especially it's being solo, you're fighting the waves of enemies coming in. But I don't know why, the arena just feels different here. Maybe it's because there's 3 other players on your side. Maybe it's the way the enemies are spawning in, I don't really know, but it just feels very claustrophobic and not like the campaign experience. I'm pretty sure different people, considering there's no campaign team at 343 now, have worked on integrating this map into Firefight, and I'm pretty sure it's not a carbon copy that it maybe should have been. It's it just doesn't feel right. Maybe it's weapon layout, maybe it's, like I said, where the enemies come in from, or maybe it's just that the AI is much stupider now because they're just running for the hill. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but it's just not as fun as it is in campaign. I'd like to actually try and test that out in campaign with some online players and just do that mission as a mission. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot more fun than what it is in Firefight. But yeah, again, the other missions, the other maps rather, the ones that are set up in multiplayer, I'm already kind of bored of because I've been playing them on multiplayer and big team battle, where I think they actually are balanced a lot better because you're not just running at a hill. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed by the maps. Even the ones that are Forge created, I just feel like they're not quite glossed up enough. They're not quite polished enough for Firefight, and it's a bit of a shame. After you've played them a few times, you kind of know how every battle is going to go, even with the different boss modes that come out. Which then brings me to my next point. The bosses, I guess, or the FOV targets from the campaign, I guess that they're the same as in the campaign, but most of them, other than Eshram, are just way too easy. Eshram and the 2 hunters that I think come out, they're pretty difficult because they just have much more health, and especially Eshram's got the best weapons in the game, so he's quite challenging and quite fun to play because he puts that big shield on as well. All the other FOV targets that you fight as a boss at the end of the game in heroic mode are just way too easy. Sometimes you get like the grunt pops out and it's like, well, he just dies in 2 headshots. So there needs to be, I know you get different bosses at the end of every round, but there needs to be, for that final one, it needs to be Eshram basically at the moment, or they need to beef up all the other targets that can come out. The next point that, again, will make things more difficult, more challenging and a bit harder, and I guess this will happen when Mythic's around, because Mythic, I think, is Mythic all skulls on, or is it just the super hardest difficulty with beefed up enemies? I forget. But when, at the moment, how it stands in heroic, and I assume will be the same when we get a legendary one, is you only get a skull turned on if all your teammates survive a round. I think the only time it's actually been challenging is when you get up to the last level, or the last round, and you haven't died yet, and you end up with 4 skulls on. Then it gets a bit more challenging. I think they just need to, when a legendary comes out, even if you get downed, I think you need to have skulls just turn on. Randomly, every round a skull turns on. It doesn't matter how well you do in the round previous, a skull is now on. And I think we need to mix up the skulls, because I just seem to, I don't know if I've been unlucky with my randomness of the games, but basically catch comes on as the second one. The first one is always missed, so we don't have a radar, which doesn't do anything anyway. And then I think the third one is usually Thunderstorm or Mythic. So I think, I don't know if it's called Thunderstorm, but basically it beefs up the enemies a little bit. I think we need a bit more variety in these skulls, because at the moment it's just not enough variety there. It's usually just without, because somebody usually dies and gets downed, whether it's me or somebody else. I think the first two need to be not always the radar and not always the grenades. Maybe I've just been unlucky there, but that's my feeling. And then I'm kind of running out of steam here with points, because this is all just off the top of my head after playing a couple rounds recently. I just want to talk about the weapon drops, and it's a bit of an awkward one, because you don't want to be just giving out loads of OP weapons, but I know they do drop in towards the back end of the game. They do drop in some campaign weapons. I just feel like it's usually the skewer and the shock rifle. I feel like maybe the tracker rockets. I feel like if they just mixed up some of the other campaign weapons in there, whether it's the pistol, whether it's the commando version, maybe just mixing up the weapons a little bit would add more variety. At the moment, you basically, or at least I, basically run around with the same guns throughout most of the match, trying to pick up a power weapon if I can, off of a downed enemy. I think they need to have a more diverse amount of weapons, and maybe limit the ammo more. The ammo isn't too bad actually, especially if you get the skull turned on where they drop less ammo. So I don't know, they just need to rebalance those weapons, because it feels a bit samey every game, and that's down to me not picking up the same weapon every time. But if my choices were limited, I think it would just be a bit more engaging in the actual game. And then the other thing that the very last thing I want to say that's a negative is the game is only actually challenging as the phantoms are flying in, because you get the three big, you get the two grunts on the cannons and then the one big cannon on the phantom. That is the only time you're actually in danger in the first 3, maybe even 4 rounds. And I feel like there should be different ways for these enemies to be coming in, whether they get dropped in through, whether they come in on banshees or vehicles or something. At the moment they're either just spawning out of thin air, or they're flying in on these phantoms, which is very difficult to dodge on the later rounds. I feel like, but also not fun, because you can't combat it, you just have to hide when you're getting ploughed by the 3 turrets. So I think they just need a bit more variety on how these enemies come in, especially if they're just going to run straight forward to the hill. So there are my big points on the negatives and things that need to be improved, as this now should be getting improved, I'm assuming. The final positives are, I like that there's good XP for completing this, and I'm just happy we've got a PvE mode that everyone is playing at the moment, at least, because it does mix up the gameplay for Halo Infinite. We should have had it 2 years ago. We finally got it, so let's not moan too much. Everything I'm saying does sound like a moan, but it's just ways that I think we need 343 to take notice and to improve moving forward. Anyway, I'm probably not going to play it now until Legendary does come out, because I'm going to go back to my campaign playthrough. So if you enjoyed this video, if you agree with me, if you want to see other videos talking about Halo gameplay and what 343 can do, as well as me showing you off some cool Forge creations, especially the campaign playthroughs, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video.